Hello there. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. I'm Ryan in Singapore. Welcome to the Mindfulness Daily Practice. Sometimes people introduce me as a mindfulness expert, right? And I don't really think of myself as a mindfulness expert. I think I'm more of a stress expert. Not because, maybe partially because of training, but also partially because I've experienced a lot of stress in my life. But I think what makes me maybe more in tune with stress is that I'm more in tune with stress, is that mindfulness practice has helped me to see my stress with a kind of clarity. And so mindfulness is kind of a tool for me to be able to access my stress. And so that's really what this series in the last week has been about. It's been about stress and about stress management and about how mindfulness fits into stress management. I do think that stress management is a really key application for mindfulness. And if there's one reason to practice is to help with stress reduction. And how does mindfulness help with stress reduction is through awareness. And you'll find that through awareness itself, without actually adding any other tools or techniques, that awareness is extremely powerful. And that just by being aware of your stress, just by being aware of the emotions surrounding stress, that alone is enough to begin making a difference in how you react to it. And I think to me, that's the most interesting part of mindfulness-based stress reduction, is in this 8-week course, when we begin to ask participants to notice stressful events and notice when they're having strong emotions. And I think what makes that the most interesting is the revelation to these participants that just noticing that it's happening already changes the outcome. Like, we don't even, I think what we think is that there needs to be some kind of strategy to change what it is that I do next. And in fact, that this isn't as important as noticing, because the moment you notice, you've already made a huge shift in how you're going to react to things or how you're going to respond to things, because then it's not really a reaction anymore, it becomes a response. So this is super key in handling your stress with greater ease, and I think that's really key in mindfulness practice, and probably my key motivator for meditation, is that I've just seen such a big benefit in my life and a big change in how I respond to stress. So yesterday's practice was called Enough. We talked about what is enough, how much should I do, how do I care for myself, especially in times when things are stressful, when it feels like doing is the solution, and that, I just don't have time for being. I don't have time to take care of myself. I don't have time to fill up my cup. And it's really an excellent transition into compassion. And the foundation of compassion practice is self-compassion. So self-compassion comes and begins with self-knowledge. And so I think that has really been the key of our last week as we explore stress and how we handle stress. That self-knowledge is really this key underlying component. And as we get to know ourselves, as we start to see how we react to stressful situations, how we see ourselves reacting to failures as well. What's the kind of inner commentary that comes when we fail? Is it a inner commentary of kindness? Are we nice to ourselves when we fail? Are we there to support ourselves, to help ourselves get back up? Or do we have a voice of cruelty? And that's kind of interesting that a lot of people, and I would say probably a majority of us, when we fail, instead of having a kind voice that's there to help us to get back up. Instead, it's this voice that's like, wow, I can't believe I screwed up again. Like, what an idiot. I'm so terrible. I can't, this kind of commentary. And in fact, it's probably even harsher than that. So I think I'll forego any expletives that that might come up, because that can happen too as we start to berate ourselves quite harshly. And being there for ourselves is really one of these keys to self-compassion. And self-compassion is the foundation to compassion outwards, because how can we love outwardly? How can we learn to be compassionate to others if we haven't first extended that compassion to ourselves? And why is this so critical? Because you are this one person who is with you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. That you're here with yourself all the time. And sometimes you can get tired of yourself. You can get tired of being around yourself, but there's no way to escape. And I think maybe all of us are waiting for that moment that, I'm not gonna, I don't love myself now. I don't love this person who's in front of me. I will eventually, though. I'll love myself when I accomplish this, when I stop doing this, when I can finally XYZ, right? All kinds of different criteria that we have, or that we can have, before we love ourselves. If we're waiting for ourselves to be perfect, we're going to be waiting an awfully long time, because perfection never happens. So the right time to start loving yourself is now. And one of the really key benefits here is that if you want to be a nicer person, maybe this is another thing that we berate ourselves about, is that we don't react to situations well. We harm other people as we end up reacting to situations poorly. So if you want to be able to be kind to others, it's much easier when we're already at our best, when we've already filled up our cup through things like self-care, through self-compassion. We can begin to love ourselves, and we'll find that as you understand yourself through mindfulness meditation, as you love yourself through self-compassion meditation, you begin to naturally notice this commonality that you have with everybody else in the world. That you are not alone, you are not alone in your experience, that all human beings feel difficulties. We're all unhappy sometimes. We're all feeling unsafe at times. We're all having times not feeling peaceful. So this is something that we all have in common and we can relate to. And we can, one, learn to love ourselves, learn to care for ourselves. But as we do, see that connection we have with everyone else and start to reach our kindness, our compassion outwards to everybody else. So, welcome everybody. I'm going to say hello a few more times before we get started. Hello Rachel, hi Jean, hi Tina, hi Cece, hi Natasha, hi Magdalena. Hello Janice, and welcome. We're going to go ahead and do a compassion meditation today. So get yourself comfortable. And the main object of our meditation is ourselves. So learning to cultivate a loving attitude towards ourselves. We'll start with a little bit of mindfulness as we begin our practice, and then slowly move into some gentle repetition of some phrases to help incline the mind to kindness to ourselves. So get into your comfortable posture, whatever that's looking like for you. Could be sitting, could be lying down if that's better for you today. I'm just noticing a little bit of tightness at my shoulders, so I'm going to roll my shoulders a few times. And then exhaling, seeing if I can relax my body. Allowing the eyes to close if you like. Just finding a way to be comfortable. And let's begin by noticing the supporting surface, the contact between the supporting surface and the body. So there's a point at which the supporting surface is no longer touching you. Can you perhaps imagine drawing a line where the supporting surface stops touching your body? And is it a solid line? Is it a fine line? Maybe what you're sitting on is really soft and it tapers off. Maybe you're sitting on a hard surface and that line is more defined. Can you find exactly where the supporting surface contact begins and ends? And if it's a transition, can you feel the transition? So searching that perimeter, examining it, examining your connection to your sense of touch. Seeing that the pressure on the left side and the right side are not equal. There is a slight difference if you can tune in to notice which foot has more weight in it, which buttock is pressed harder against the cushion. And beginning to expand your awareness to your entire body. All of the physical sensations you feel here within and on the surface of the skin. Even as the body is still, your body is still giving information to your mind. You still feel, even when nothing is changing. But wait, something is changing. The abdomen expands and contracts. The chest expands and contracts. There's movement of air through my nostrils. I can feel my body breathing. Maybe I can even feel my heart beating in my chest. So tuning into this body that's here now. And all the physical sensations here. And when you're ready, we're going to begin shifting our attention. Shifting our attention towards ourselves. Seeing perhaps if you can recall what it feels like to be loved unconditionally. To be loved by another without needing to be worthy or deserving. In fact, you may not feel worthy or deserving. This does not matter. Seeing if you can incline your heart to love yourself exactly as you are in this moment. And perhaps even trusting that you are exactly the way that you are meant to be in this moment. The present is now. The version of you that is here now is here now. No other version of you is meant to be here. So why not open your heart to the you that's here? Embrace yourself. Wrap yourself in your own unconditional love. And so using that memory of unconditional love from another as a guide to remind yourself what it's like to be loved unconditionally. And if that hasn't happened in your life, is it possible for you to imagine being loved unconditionally? Love for you here and now exactly as you are. You don't need to be any different. You don't need to be any better. And maybe as we go through this practice, you do have feelings of unworthiness. You do feel resistance. You do have thoughts of harshness towards self. If you do find these kind of thoughts are coming up, treat them like any other distraction that we would have in our mindfulness practice. Become aware of that thought momentarily, and then shift the attention back to unconditional love to self. And so maybe you're finding it challenging to create this feeling, or in fact, maybe you're not feeling anything. Maybe you think that you're supposed to be feeling something, and understand that this also does not matter. There is no special feeling that comes from doing this practice. Just trying is already enough. And especially for those who may not have any feeling or may find this practice to be challenging, let's begin to shift to wishing ourselves well. So it can be helpful to repeat some phrases, to cultivate a loving attitude by repeating some phrases for ourselves. So if you like, repeating after me in your mind, or out loud if you like. May I be happy and peaceful. May I be happy and peaceful. May I be safe and protected and free from inner and outer harm. May I be healthy and whole to whatever degree possible for me. May I have the courage to love myself exactly as I am. And so you can add any other phrases that you think might be helpful here. And customize these phrases any way you like. And we can repeat these again. You can continue repeating these phrases on your own or whatever phrases you like. May I be happy and peaceful. May I be safe and protected, free from inner and outer harm. May I be healthy and whole, to whatever degree possible for me. May I have the courage to love myself exactly as I am. May I be happy and peaceful. May I be safe and protected and free from harm. May I be healthy and whole, complete. May I have the courage to love myself exactly as I am. And so now let's slowly begin to let go of these phrases. Coming back to the present. Coming back to the me that's here now. Coming back to physical sensations in the body. Who's here? What's the state of the body? What's the state of the mind? What's the state of the emotions? So we'll now begin to draw our practice to its close. Maybe set some intention to continue practicing like this and in other ways. To continue cultivating your mindfulness and your compassion. And I'll close practice with 3 rings of the bell. All right, well done. Congratulations for having made it through today's practice. Maybe taking a moment to thank yourself for having made the time to do this practice today, to begin cultivating self-compassion. So how'd it go today? Rachel shares, I went very deep, but kept coming back when I spoke. When I spoke. Can you describe that a little bit more? What happened when you went very deep? Rachel, it tuned out, then tuned back in. Thank you for sharing. Demonte shares, it's difficult to accept self just the way I am. And there's nothing to be ashamed or embarrassed about that. You're not alone. That this is something that requires practice and requires cultivation. That loving yourself can be really, really challenging. And I guess what I can say is that it does get easier with practice. So keep it up, keep coming back. Whatever resistance you feel towards this practice, know that the more that that's why it's called practice. The more you practice, the easier it becomes. The more you love yourself, it's like I said yesterday. When you fill up your cup and your cup is completely full and it starts to run over, you can't help but get your love and compassion on everybody else. So it's just something that will come naturally. So self-compassion practice is not selfish. That it really does equip you to be loving and compassionate to everyone around you as well. Hey, Frank. And Barbara says, I found it difficult to sit still today, but did the most important thing. I showed up and stuck with it. Thank you, Barbara. Lisa says, so beautiful. My tension headache is easing. Thank you. Thank you for being here, Lisa. And Rachel says, before I tuned out, I was repeating everything you said. So yeah, I think the gentle repetition can be really helpful, especially if you're new to the practice. If you haven't really become accustomed to being compassionate towards yourself and learning what that's like, these phrases can really help, especially as you're getting started. Jean says, I'm always surprised when I have a setback, as I did this weekend. Starting back, keep practicing. Thanks, Jean. Rachel says, yesterday I noticed a negative response to a shop attendant. I didn't handle it well and got her offside. I'm sure she was glad when I left and probably used a couple of expletives. Well, you know what? And we all have, that's it. What happens, right? What's the cause of these setback? It tends to be more than the situation that you're in, right? And I think that's an important thing to understand as well, and mindfulness helps with that. Is just like, what happened here? What was really happening here? Was I really angry at the shop attendant, or was it this accumulation of all these other things that brought this, that this was the moment that everything culminated and it came out. And I really think that through additional self-care we can learn to manage ourselves with a little bit more skill and ease. Yeah, perhaps it wasn't as bad as you thought, says Leslie. That's true too, right? This is kind of part of the opposite of self-compassion, right? Is that we, especially if our minds tend to be really harsh towards ourselves, we tend to think situations to be worse than what they really are, as we catastrophize what it is. And yeah, I think most of us do tend to think of things about us are remembered longer than other people remember them, because we are the star of our own movie production, right? We are the star of our own show inside of our minds. That's That's how the brain's default mode works. We are at the center of pretty much every thought we have, and that's just how things go. So take it easy on yourself. Let's close our practice the same way we always do, and use even this closing well wishes as a next step into our practice that we're going to do tomorrow. So tomorrow's practice is about compassion for a good friend. So the next step outwards. So repeat after me, follow along if you like. May I be happy and peaceful. May everyone watching, listening right now, wherever you are, I wish you all happiness and peace. And may all sentient life on this planet, around the universe, I wish them all happiness and peace. Okay, take care, everyone. See you tomorrow. Until then, bye-bye.